Hi, how's it going? So, let me just make sure notifications are off because I recorded this once and my mum phoned while I was in the middle of it, so I think we're good. So, as a filmmaker, you might be familiar, I say might, I know you definitely will be, familiar with the endlessly frustrating feeling that your job, your opportunities, your career as a whole are dependent on other people. And I've never loved that feeling. I've also never been comfortable with the concept of being dependent on others, especially in such a fast paced industry like film, where it's impossible to have someone else's best interests at heart. So it means that no one is ever going to go out of their way to call you up, to offer you a job. In short, no one's going to give you anything without a lot of drive coming from you. And that's the way it should be. But what do you do when, even after all of that drive that you put in, you're still struggling to get in touch with producers or secure backing on your next project? Can you ever fully create your own opportunities when it comes to the big things? And the answer is yes, absolutely you can, even in the middle of a pandemic. So if this is what you've been missing, then I'm glad you're in the right place. And if your friends in the film industry are also ready to create their own opportunities as well, then tag them in the comments. So if we've not met before, I'm Charlotte. I'm a film producer and a career coach, helping you and other indie filmmakers build a successful career around the projects that you love so you can get paid for your time and talent while staying true to your creative vision. So even if we haven't met before, I am willing to bet my entire notebook collection on two things. And let me tell you, that collection is extensive. That's like a third of it there. And I've been known as the stationery freak since I was 5. So firstly, I'm going to bet that you are an ideas machine. There is nothing that excites you more than the first glimmer of inspiration for a new story. You might be the have to get it all down on paper immediately type, or you might prefer letting it sit and develop in the back of your mind for a few days or a few weeks. Either way, you're a creative through and through, and your own notebook collection is probably dedicated to stories and worlds and characters that you're waiting to bring to life and put them onto the big screen. The next thing that I'll bet on is that when it comes to actually getting your inspired ideas onto the big screen, that's usually what's tripping you up. That's usually where you struggle. And I believe the technical term is analysis paralysis, but I like to call it biscuit aisle fatigue. So picture the scene. My mum is not phoning me in the middle of recording a video. She is faced with an entire aisle of biscuit options. Does she want plain biscuits? Does she want chocolate biscuits? Does she want the ones on offer? Like, the list goes on. It's roughly 5 seconds after being faced with all of these options that her eyes start to glaze over and we have to drag her into the next aisle. So this is exactly the same process that I used to live on an almost daily basis, where I had all these ideas and I had so many options for where to get started. Should I apply for BFI funding? Maybe I should see what competitions are open now. Oh no, I should make the pitch deck first, but what about the other creators? Do I need to get the director on board before I get the funding? Like, all of these things. Thing is, in film, there's no wrong way to do something, especially with shorts. There's always going to be 100 options. So even while you have all these ideas, it's so hard to create your own opportunities when you don't even know which opportunities to begin working on, right? So here's how it breaks down. If you are a writer or director, then the first port of call for you will be producers and or production companies. Funding is never your responsibility as a writer or director, or both, and it's actually what trips most people up. The thing is, unless you are a producer, you won't have that knowledge, you won't have that experience, and you won't have those contacts, meaning that funding is the one impossible uphill struggle that you never really get out of. So put down funding applications, stop the Google search, and focus on finding producers who are making things you love and creating a connection with those producers. But before we properly get into that, we need to make sure that your development slate is in perfect condition, right? So a big chunk of your job is, for writers and directors, is selling producers on ideas and concepts. So it means that you have to make sure you have a really good variety of projects to choose from. That way, you never miss an opportunity by pushing a project that will never be the right fit for that director. Now, when I say a huge variety, I don't mean one horror, one comedy, one drama. If you know you're a drama writer or director through or through, then stick to that. The variety will come through other things, through the scale of the ideas, through the ideas themselves will have a huge amount of variety. And when you start to create that level of variety, it means that when you're talking to a producer and they say, oh, what are you working on at the moment? Which I guarantee anyone in the film industry will ask you during any conversation. It means that because you've started to get to know them, you can mentally scan through the projects that you have on your slate and pick the 2 or 3 that best fit that person. You know, for me, if I ask someone what they're working on and they immediately start telling me about a low budget horror film, like, glazed over. It's just not my thing. It doesn't mean the idea is bad or that it's going to be a bad project. It's nothing to do with that. It's purely personal interest based, right? So you want that variety. And instead of having 2 or 3 ideas that you're constantly pushing, that it's going to take you a long time to find the right fit in terms of the right producer, you're going to create far more opportunities for yourself with 15 to 20 ideas. Even if they're less developed, they're still solid enough for you to discuss them for 3 to 4 minutes with a producer. So grab those notebooks. You can see from my rather expensive collection. Grab your notebooks. I'm guessing yours looks a little similar. Start creating your own development slate with a minimum of 10 projects. You don't need scripts for all of them, just a logline and some key information like genre, setting, comparable films, maybe some character info as well. Everyone's a little bit different in terms of what pieces come first when developing ideas, so there's no real wrong way to do it. It's just about creating a stable enough idea that you can discuss with someone else. So you never know when someone might just fall in love with a logline on your slate, and that could be the thing that unlocks everything. So that's why you want that variety. And it doesn't really matter, you know, I know that one of the first questions you're going to have when you're listening to me say this is that, okay, but what about when they ask for a script? It's fine. You don't have to have a script. They won't expect you to have scripts for everything. You can just say, oh, well, it's in early development, but I know that you mentioned X, Y, Z, and this idea is about da, 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 and you tie it to what they've said. Honestly, I would prefer getting a much more personalized pitch because it means they've actually listened to what I've said and we've connected on a more personal level. I would much rather have that than have a fully formed project with a script that I can read that's less suitable to what I'm interested in. Make sense? Okay. So now that you have a good variety of projects, you have those ideas to choose from, this is when you can start reaching out to producers and building those connections with them. Again, we focus on that connection, that personal relationship, rather than any particular project. Because at this point, you don't know them yet, and you know, vice versa. So you can't really judge what projects will interest them. So get to know them, build that relationship, and then as you're having those conversations with them, scan through your projects to find the 2 or 3 that best appeal to that particular person. So now that you're tailoring your pitches to each person, you're going to get a much better response, especially if you are used to that glazed eyes look when you pick someone an idea that they're definitely not interested in. So, quick recap. Build your development slate, create connections with producers. You're going to have plenty of ideas, meaning that you're never going to miss an opportunity because you always have the perfect answer to what are you working on. And you also get to skip the biscuit aisle fatigue because you now have a bank of producers that you have a great relationship with. This is gold dust, right? Because this means that as soon as you develop a new idea, you can ask yourself who this project will be the best fit for and go directly to them. So instead of that biscuit aisle fatigue that you're used to when you have this idea and you don't even know where to get started on it, and it almost feels like you just have to wait until the right person comes along. No, we switch that up. It means that you look at this idea, you look at the people that you know, you think, oh, okay, Charlotte, she's into female-led narrative drama. Let me send her an email, we'll schedule a call, we'll catch up, and I can just mention it to her when she says, what are you working on? You see how much more natural and kind of non-sleazy, or I'm trying to think of what the word is. It just feels a lot more organic, right? And often when we're having these conversations or we're having those emails with people, it feels like a real life or death situation sometimes. It's like, I've got to sell this in the next 30 seconds and there's so much pressure to it. we get rid of that. Honestly, I don't love any kind of like pressure, like highly pressured pitching scenario on either end. When I'm pitching or when I'm being pitched to, not a fan. Honestly, those casual conversations where it's just you and another person having a very easy conversation, so much more effective. So you know who you're going to go to, and it also means that, you know, vice versa, you are now on their lists. So you're going to be on their list for writer or director or whatever, which means that you're going to get more emails asking, you know, if you're interested in working on this project. So you're going to get more jobs coming to you, as well as being able to go to them with more projects. Okay, so these are 2 fun and manageable things that you can put on your to-do list for this week to start creating and boosting your opportunities as a filmmaker, even in a pandemic. And if you're an overachiever, which is a filmmaker, I'm betting that you probably are, you can learn about the 2 other things that you can add to your to-do list that successful full-time filmmakers do every week to create opportunities, get their own films made. You download it at charlotteproduces.com/essential to get all the info. Honestly, I delved into what the Greta Gerwigs and the Emerald Fennells of the world were doing on a daily basis, and I distilled it down to 4 essentials. And yes, it is Emerald Fennell rather than Emerald Fennel. I get, like, it's just a personal thing, but I get kind of annoyed whenever anyone pronounces her name wrong. Anyway, these are the 4 essentials that I go through with all of my VIP clients as well, so they can create the career that they're really dreaming of without sacrificing that really hard-earned free time or heading towards burnout. I know that's a big problem for a lot of indie filmmakers, especially when they are starting out or starting to make their own films consistently. It's a real balancing act, trying to juggle loads of things. So that's why we've distilled it down to those 4 essentials. And if you know that you're done with where your film career is currently at and it's time to level up, these are the 4 essentials that really will form the foundation of getting you to your next stage. And you can download them for free at charlotteproduces.com/essential. So I will see you next week.